Hello everybody, this is Bill McFadden from tonepure.com, and in this video we're going to go over the foundation of composing music. Music consists of melody, harmony, rhythm, and instrumentation. So let's go ahead and start first with the foundation of melody. So looking at the keyboard, we have all of these notes before us. And the distance between any two of the notes that we see is called a half step or a semitone. For example, this note is called C. And notice the position of C. We have this series of two black notes, three black notes, two black notes, three black notes, and the note before the two black notes is always C. So we have C up here. Notice the two black notes following it, and then C up here, and so on. So that's how you can sort of get your bearing, is by looking at the black notes. And then, or similarly, if you look at these three black notes, the one preceding it is called F. Now, as we know, the distance between any two notes is called a half step or semitone, and two half steps is called a tone, a whole tone. So if I start at C and I go up twice, I've done a whole tone, and two more notes or two more semitones gives me another whole tone. And if we keep going, we generate the scale. Now, the sequence that we've just defined is a pattern of whole tones and semitones. So, for example, if I do, starting with C, if I go up a whole tone, another whole tone, a semitone, and then from there, another whole tone, another whole tone, another whole tone, and then a semitone, I've defined a major scale. So it's basically tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And let's suppose I start at A. Then I can define a minor scale by going up a tone, a semitone, another tone, another tone, a semitone, another tone, and another tone. So that defined an A minor scale. But the pattern will work on any note that you start with. For example, if I start with D, and then I go up a tone, and then a semitone, and then another tone, a semitone, another tone, and another tone. So I've defined a D minor scale. So and these are the major scales. There are a variety of other scales. And another thing you can do, if I start with if I just look at the white keys and I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes, that's called the Ionian mode. So it's actually has a special name, the C major scale. And if I start on D and go up using just the white keys, I've now defined a scale called the Dorian mode. And then if I start on E, we have another mode. So we have the Dorian, the Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian is the mode we have here. And then if I start on F, I define what's called the Lydian mode. And that's a special scale. And then if I start on G and go up, I get the Mixolydian. And if I start on A, I get the Aeolian mode, which is also the same as the minor scale that we looked at. And if I start on B, I get the Locrian mode. So all of these have different relationships between tones and semitones, but the ones that we'll primarily be looking at initially, at any rate, are the major and the minor scales. Now, there's something called a key signature, and basically if your scale, like the C scale, is all white notes, so there are no black notes. So we don't have any sharps or flats in the key signature. And the same is true with the A minor scale. We don't have any sharps or flats in that scale either, so it basically has the same key signature as C, that is, there's no sharps or flats. Which brings us to something called the circle of fifths. Notice that C has no sharps or flats in the key signature, and A minor has no sharps or flats, so both of these have the same key signature. And if we go up from C to G, which is actually 5 notes in the major scale, so if we go up, and that's called a perfect fifth interval from C to G, then notice if we start on G and we do a major scale using the pattern for major scales, which is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, we'll actually get, well, here's our tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So we have the major scale in G, but notice it has an F sharp. Now, the way we talk about the black keys, for example, if I have, say, a G, and I go down a semitone, that's called G flat. I know, but at the same time, if I started at F and went up a semitone, that would be F sharp. So this key actually has 2 names, F sharp, or going down from G, it's called a G flat. So basically, when you go up, you get a sharp, and when you go down, you get a flat. For example, there's D, so if I go down, I get a D flat. And if I start at D and go up, I get a D sharp, which is also the same as if I started at E and went down, and I got an E flat. So getting back to the scale of G, we see that in order to get a major scale, there's an F sharp. And the chart tells us that that scale in G will be the same as the scale in E minor. So if I start on E minor, or start on E, and go up the scale, the next note will be an F sharp for an E minor scale. And again, the minor scale has the tone, semitone, so tone. So starting from here, we go up a tone, then a semitone, another tone, semitone, tone, tone. So there's your E minor scale. And you can go through, if I start at G and I go up a fifth, then I get to D, and the D scale, according to the chart, has 2 sharps, and we could figure that out just by using the pattern for a major scale starting at D. So we have, and notice it also tells us that B minor will have the same 2 sharps, the same 2 black keys. So they both consist of the same notes, both scales. Similarly, if we start at C and we go down a fifth, we get to F, and the key signature of F major contains 1 flat. And that those same notes will be used in the D minor scale, which will have that 1 flat, B flat. And you can go on all the way around the circle of fifths, and it gets a little involved. But it's a great idea when you're first starting out to learn the scales with up to, let's say, at least 2 flats and 2 sharps. And then from there you can go maybe from 3 flats, 3 sharps, 4 flats, 4 sharps, and then you might want to go into the 5 flats here and the 5 sharps here. And if you do that, then you'll be very fluent in writing your melodies, as we'll see in time. So we have the circle of fifths. And the next thing we want to take a look into is chords. So now that we have these scales, let's go back to the C scale. So and a good way to look at chords is patterns. For example, these 3 notes are the first, third, and the fifth of the C major scale. So the third defines whether you have a major or minor chord. And this is also called a triad. It consists of 3 notes. If I go up to D using the same formation, in the same hand position, I get the first, third, and fifth of the D scale, which is actually a D minor, because the third is a minor third. It's the third of the minor scale. So if it's the third of a minor scale, it's called a minor chord. And then continuing to go up, I get an E minor chord, because this is the first, third, and fifth of the E minor scale. This would be the F major chord, G major chord, A minor chord. And then interestingly enough here, when we do we're actually using the same hand position, but we're actually getting not a major scale or a minor scale, but we're getting that Locrian or Locrian mode. And it turns out we are getting the minor of the B minor scale, but this note is actually not the fifth, but it's actually the diminished fifth. And this chord is actually called a diminished chord. So if I just start at C and go up, I get a C major, C minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, then I get a D diminished chord, and then back to the C chord. So, and the chords are the foundation of your harmony. Now, if you do the same thing for a minor scale, so here we have A minor. Now this chord right here is actually another diminished chord because you have the minor third, because you're minor, B minor scale. If you remember on the circle of fifths, the B minor scale has two sharps. So we're actually getting the first note, the third note, and not the fifth note, but the fifth note. So there's your fifth note. So it's diminished, which basically means you come down a half step. So we have the A minor, the B diminished. Now we have a C major chord, a D minor chord, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. So notice that in both the major scale and the minor scale, we end up with, when we go up and with these triads, we actually get major, minor chords and one diminished chord in each of the minor scale and the major scale. You get a diminished chord. In the minor scale, the diminished chord is the second chord, the chord based on the second note of the A minor scale in this case. In the major, the seventh note gives you the diminished chord. So that gives us sort of a foundation of major scales, minor scales, and also the chords that the triads, the three note chords that we can get from them. And there are other chords as well. We can get suspended chords and so on. But for now, this is probably enough to get started if you're just getting into the foundation of music. So why is this important? Because, for example, if I play a C chord, so I'll play the notes of a C chord. So there's the first, the fifth, the third, the fifth again. So I can voice these chords in different ways by using those three fundamental notes, the C, E, and G. And if I'm doing, say, a C, here's another voicing we could use. So I've got the C chord. I'm thinking I'm in the C scale, and so I know what notes I can use for my melody. And then if I want it, I could go up. So this would be the second chord. Or more simply, we could just do those triads. So, and that's just using a C major scale. And I just went through all of the three note chords. And then, of course, it gets more interesting when you start using minor chords and different inversions. So you start getting the idea, if you just start using these chords, maybe just in the C scale, and you could go to the A minor scale next. So you can start, that would be a great way to start improvising your melodies, is just to start initially with the C major scale and then to transition to the A minor scale and just start writing, start moving your hands around with the notes and then keeping the chords in mind as you progress through your melody. And there's a whole lot more to that. We're just touching the surface of it. And we'll get more into it in the next video where we talk about harmonies that go beyond triads. And then, of course, we'll have to get into rhythm after that. So this is Bill McFadden signing off from tonepure.com.